Welcome to Scaling with Heart, the show where growth meets humanity. I'm your host, Nikki Duncan, and I sit down with operators, founders, and change makers who are building smarter systems, stronger teams, and more intentional lives. Whether you're growing a business, leading a team, or leveling up your own work, this is your space to learn how strategy, creativity, and heart come together to scale what matters. We'll explore the tools, mindset shifts, and leadership habits that turn complexity into clarity and ambition into aligned action. Let's get into it. Today, I'm joined by John Titolo Jr., Managing Member of CPG Lending. John's a capital strategist with over 36 years of experience across finance, insurance, and deal structure. John works upstream before capital is committed, helping operators make high-stakes decisions around risk, timing, and structure with clarity and accountability. His perspective is grounded in something many leaders avoid, not just how deals start, but how they actually end when assumptions meet reality. This conversation is for anyone scaling a business who knows that misalignment, fragmented decision-making, and unclear vision don't only slow growth, they break it. Something you always see, John, because you mentioned full communication and transparency with a clear vision.
Okay. Oh, well, I mean, in business, I noticed that you need to have 100% communication. If you don't have communication with your employees, with your teammates, you can't share your vision. What I notice is that if you cut that off, people get bogged. They don't even know what direction you're going in. Then you fall into that category. You're not being transparent because if you're not communicating.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, but not all communication is transparent communication.
That is true. I mean, you
Sometimes
can
it's just
twist
noise.
it. Yes, a lot of it could be noise. Well, you're being transparent with that noise.
Hopefully,
Hopefully, true. Well,
hopefully.
people can get a good read from it.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like communication in the corporate world is kind of like a family group chat. There's a whole lot being said, but nothing is being said.
That's very true.
We have, I mean, just this weekend we had a group chat going with the family, and one of my sisters posted something in it, and my mom and I almost immediately both went, "Huh? What are you saying?" And she was like, "Ah."
Yeah, some of the communication can be in circles, that's for sure.
Yeah. So
And
how
some
do you?
people like to hear themselves talk.
That's true. That is true. Yes, yes. I had a lady the other day who bent my ear for about 45 minutes, and then she says, "Boy, that John, not really you." She says, "That guy really likes to hear himself talk." And I thought in my head, and so do you.
Yeah, really. I haven't got a
Like,
word in.
I gotta
I mean,
go. My
I'm sure
feet are
you've
pointing at
been,
the door. I've been edging out, and she just kept following me to the door. And I'm like, oh my God.
ay, 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 that's not good. I mean, I had clients where, because we talked to a lot of business owners, and I spoken to people about their projects and their people are passionate, or they talk about their business and they just go on and on. You can't say a word. You're just like, uh, 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 and that's what you do like the whole time. And I'm like, okay. And they're talking 30, 40 minutes straight.
And at
And
the
I
end,
don't
they
know
and at the end they say that was a great conversation. Thanks.
exactly.
And you're
It's like
like,
it's like they unloaded on you.
oh, people are fun. So
I feel like I want to send you a therapy bill. Something.
yes. So in the on the target of trying to get that clear picture and transparency for transparent communication and all of that, in your experience, who should own the full picture when it comes to what you do, capital risk and strategy? And why do most organizations avoid that level of ownership?
Well, I think it's usually the person, the decision maker. the one that comes up with the plan, or whoever's actually, maybe it's not even the owner, whoever, they agreed in, or maybe somebody's the one that's the leader of that. Um, and the latter part of it, I forgot what you said. I just lost my train of thought.
Why do
Sorry about that.
I gotta stop asking two-part questions? Why? How often, I guess, and why, when they do most organizations avoid
Oh,
identifying that person or that level of ownership?
I think they avoid it because of a couple of reasons. One, it could be embarrassment. They feel like maybe they failed and they're embarrassed about it, or it could be some fear involved that they don't want to have everything fall on them, like the consequences. Um, so I mean, I'm sure, you know, we do a lot of finance stuff, so we ask for information, and people give us information on whatever it is. It could be something regarding some documents or some kind of structure, and they put it in a certain way, but they don't put it in the right way. But they don't want to take responsibility for it. They're just like, oh, that's the way it was from my account, and that's the way it was received from this. I thought, they just don't look at it and say, okay, I screwed up. I
Right.
should have organized it this way. People, I mean, human nature, we like to shift the blame to somebody else because you don't want to feel the guilt.
Hmm. It's more comfortable that way.
It is. I mean, it is. I mean, it's easier. It's escape. You could
Yeah.
just escape from it. I mean, why do you want to say, oh, you know what? I messed up. I
Yeah.
screwed up.
Which leads to, in my experience with, operations and project management and all of the things I do, that urge to shift the ownership and the blame to someone else leads to a whole lot of fragmentation.
Hmm.
And then operations are not working well. And I was lucky, and so was the business for that runner, that I was never the one who owned financial decisions. Nobody wants me in charge of that.
Uh-oh.
I can balance a checkbook and I'm very frugal, but nobody wants me in charge of the financial plan.
Okay.
You know what? There are subject matter experts for that. I'm not that.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
but see, I'm smart enough to know that's not my specialty, and we need to give that to someone who is.
Right,
Which
right,
I think goes to giving ownership to somebody. And like you're saying, not being afraid to say, you know, I messed up, if,
right.
and owning it and giving it to somebody else. And you've talked online and stuff about how most deals don't fail because of bad ideas, but because decisions are made in pieces or fragments.
Right.
Can you talk about, in a growing company, what that actually looks like?
Well, I mean, basically people don't plan. They don't plan properly. So when it comes down to majority of times what I see when business is trying to scale or even a project's trying to scale, they take it in pieces and they deal with it as it comes. You can't operate that way. I mean, you have to have, even if it's a plan and it gets adjusted and, you change it a million times, but you have the framework of something that's in place. I see so many projects where there's, oh, we'll deal with it when it comes. It doesn't work that way. Or they say, okay, we understand this part. We know what to do here. We don't know what to do with it, but we don't want to know right now.
I don't want to
I mean,
know. I'm not going to look at that.
how do you actually, you gotta, you have to mitigate the risk. You have to know exactly see, I mean, I learned a philosophy and this is what I do now is like if someone came to me and say, hey, you know what? Look at this deal. See if does this work? And they tell me all the perks and all this stuff. I don't even listen to it. I don't even want to know it. So what I do is I said, okay, well, what's going to blow up? What's all the negatives? I want to know everything negative about it first, because if that that is what everyone's going to look at. They don't really care about
Right.
the positive side because you get the emotions and everyone gets lifted. Oh yeah, great. Well, but you're forgetting the big part of it. If you don't know what's coming down and what's really what can blow up. Well,
Hmm.
tell me what can really blow up. Give me every single thing that's negative about this, and if we can live with it, that's what it
Right.
comes down with.
That's how I ran my projects. When our corporate headquarters would come down with this big vision or this big initiative and say, project X has to be implemented, go implement it. And I would look at it and one project in particular, it was massive, and I had to implement it across 112 business locations.
Wow.
And I looked at it and I was like, okay, where are the biggest where are the biggest roadblocks and challenges going to be? And that's what I started with. I mean, I started with I have to do X by this date. What's
Mm-hmm.
going to stop me from getting there? And when I looked at
Right.
it that way and then backed into it, and I even looked at it and took the people into account, it wasn't just what's going to stop me. It's like what and who is
Right.
going to stop me and cause a problem and be a bottleneck. And, where are those bottlenecks and those issues going to be? So then, I know I've got 12 months to deal with this, but how am I going to, and then I would work my plan out in how I'm going to deal with that because some of the people involved, the business owners, were like, I'm not touching that. I'm not doing it, period, at all. End of discussion. And it wasn't quite enough to say you have to do it.
Yeah.
I had to lean into it a little bit differently. I understand you don't want to do that, and I'm not asking you to do that right now.
Right.
I'm just letting you know it's coming. And then, I just kind of kept the word I heard recently was drip. I just kind of kept dripping on them a little bit at a time to say, this is still coming. This is where we're at. This is how long you have to get comfortable with the idea.
Right. Right. Right.
And I had to, like you're saying, you look at it from what's going to break. I had to look at it from what's going to break and what's going to stop us from hitting that goal and
Right.
back into that, into how I can get around that and mitigate it and make it work. And that's
Right.
not an easy thing to do. And
No, and I agree. I mean, a lot of people feel like, well, you're looking at it as the negative side of it. I mean, you gotta. I mean, it's reality.
yeah, yeah. My husband has told me that before, we had a rental property and it needed, I don't know, 18 or $20,000 worth of foundation work done. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, just sell the place.
Mm-hmm.
Just unload it and sell it." And we had this whole debate back and forth and I just kind of laid out both sides of it. If we keep it, this, if we sell it, this, and the cons were definitely outweighing the pros. And he says,
Mm-hmm.
"Man, you're very glass half full, very pessimistic." I said, "I don't think of it as pessimistic. I think of it as I want to see the whole picture. Yes, there's a potential good side,
Right.
but what the heck is it going to take to get there?" And you know what? He was talking about that house not too long ago. And yes, if we still had it, it would be making bank on a
Ah,
monthly rent.
all right.
Absolutely. Now it would. That was 10 years ago.
Well, you
And
don't
so
know. I
10
mean,
years ago, the best deal was to sell it.
true.
And I'm like, you can't. And sometimes you can look at it and go, well, 10 years down the road, but can I afford to hold on to it for 10 years?
And that's a if. That's what it is. It's
Yes.
if the market's gonna go in that direction. You don't
Right.
know.
Right. Can I afford this? Can I afford this risk? Or do I
Right.
need to pass it off? Or do I need to get ahead of it and, mitigate it and push it off to somebody else or just get rid of it completely?
Right.
I can see where that would very clearly fall into the financial realm that you guys work in.
Yeah. And a
Huge
lot of
area.
that, a lot of it came from because I started as an insurance underwriter. And then when I owned insurance agency, so I have the mindset of, risk. Well, I look at things before it even happens instead of like from a finance money. I said, well, that's a liability. That's a problem. That's exposure.
Yeah. And
So
exposure is not always good.
no,
Rarely is it good.
no, nothing's like this. Exposure's not good.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the people that I see, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I see other people don't have that knowledge.
Mhm.
So they just look at it as numbers, numbers, numbers. Oh, the numbers are great. They look greater in the future. They look at us and, but well, what about this? What about that? What about that?
Yeah.
They just don't. It's just how, it's good to work in that aspect, even though you say you're working backwards, but you're actually going forward.
You are. I mean, you can't. Yes. And I had one of my favorite bosses taught me how to do that. She was like, okay, so this is the end goal.
Right.
So, how do we get to that end goal? And what's going to fall apart, in that way? And where is the exposure? Because to my opinion, my thinking, the only good exposure is if you are like an influencer
True.
or,
True.
and getting the PR stuff.
Right.
That's the only time exposure is really good. But when you're talking about risk and things that could break a major project and a business and things like, I mean, exposure is not good, and you need to minimize that as
Right.
much as possible. Otherwise, you're going to run out of money. And that's when people come to you, right? I need more money
Oh yeah, yeah. They have
because,
nothing left.
yeah, and they haven't planned. And now they're too big of a risk that nobody wants to give them money.
I believe me, Nikki, I see a lot of people that come to me and they're in that situation and they don't have a plan. They're looking
Yeah.
for a bailout.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I've
what's the
known
matter?
people like
You
that.
can't get a check? Why would someone give you a check?
Yeah. I've known people like that, John, and it's like, what? No. No.
You realize, but we have this. No,
Not really.
doesn't
Yeah.
work.
So in your work, when you see people who come to you without that plan or that vision or whatever, do you help guide them in how to find that clarity, or do you just send them back and give them a
Nah,
couple
well, I
pointers,
mean,
or how does that work
we
for you guys?
always we always try to give you some kind of guidance and tell them, okay, we can put a plan together, we can help you get yourself back on track, set the path straight for you, and then it's up to them. I mean, I have done and I still do some advisory work with some people, and what always gets me the most is that when people step in and they, instead of working on one project, they're working on 10 at the same time. And I don't understand that because I'm just listening to the person. I'm getting stressed out because I'm like, how do you actually function daily? If you're working on 10 things, how do you actually, you're not even in creative. You can't even come up with ideas. You're just like, you're in survival mode and you're just reactive the whole
Mm-hmm.
time. I mean, and you're just in a whirlwind of nothing. You're just circling, waiting for something to sink.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I to this day I don't understand why these people do that. They just feel like there's another opportunity. There's always opportunities. There's
Right. And
always something there, and I mean, doesn't mean you got to take every single one of them.
hmm well, I get exactly what you're saying. I mean, you talk about all the different projects and in progress, right? I mean, I'm starting my own business.
Right.
I am running a fundraising campaign for the American Heart Association.
That's
I
great.
am I am writing a cookbook that's been a year
Right.
in the works.
Okay.
Um,
Well, that's probably like a more hobby, like a luxury thing, or
kind of, sort of. Um, and I've got another project that I won't really go into, but I've got another project that I'm working on that's kind of big. And, and then there's all the life things. I mean, I've always got multiple things in the iron, but I can't focus on, to your point, you can't focus on all of them at one point. point. Like,
Right.
yes, I have the cookbook going, and when my husband, who's got weird food allergies, the cookbook is his fault. Uh, when, when he
Okay.
says, okay, I'm tired of those same 10 meals, we need to change it up a little bit. Okay, now I've got to go back into creative mode for a little bit and create some new recipes to come up with something new. And I just jot those down in my notebook in the house, and we test out some new recipes, and I make all kinds of funny notes on it, like draw big red X's. This one tastes like vomit. Aaron's
Okay.
words.
Nice.
You know, don't ever use this one again, kind of thing. And keep going. So yes, it's in progress, but it's not where my focus is. I can only, to your point, you can only really focus on one or two big initiatives at a time.
Right. Right.
You just can't do that many. I interviewed for a job, and they needed somebody to come in and help with their initiative alignment, basically, because the CEO of the company had 11 initiatives lined up for the next year.
Wow.
I'm like, you don't need
Wow.
one person, you need five people.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a one person job unless this person's making two to $300,000 a year and knows they're working 70 hours a week.
Right.
By the way, they're only going to last about a year before they burn out.
Definitely.
Uh, you know,
Without saying. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, and I'm like, that's not, whew. I mean, it was terrifying to think of. Um, and then when they add in the fact, oh, and by the way, we don't have any way that we track our initiatives right now, so you would also have to build the tracking system. I'm
Ooh.
like, oh my word,
Wow.
y'all are crazy.
Ooh, that's a lot.
It may, I don't know, John, one of these days they might be coming to you looking for a bailout.
No, yeah. I'm saying no a lot more often.
Right? No, that's okay. No. So it's all right. So what does, so obviously we've talked about bad vision. What does clear vision look like in practice? Not just as a statement, but someone who has taken the steps and they have the plan and they know their timing and everything else. What does that look like in your world?
It's a rarity.
That's so sad.
I shouldn't say that, but most of the people aren't that way. But it's a pleasure. Actually, it really is because they already thought of things before I even thought of it. They already laid it out. They already gave you everything up front. And you're just looking at it and says, this person knows what they're doing. A lot of times in those situations, I'm like, okay, why do you need me?
Right.
Because I'm like, okay, it's like, I mean, you have your stuff together. You know what to do. You don't need my guidance. I can probably set you up with things, but a lot of times, it is a pleasure to see that actually when something's laid out, structured, they have their vision, they're clear exactly. They thought about all the downside, and a lot of times it's somebody that has some kind of financial background that actually has that in place,
Hmm.
or somebody on their team put that in place for them. A regular business owner is not going to have that.
Right.
It's going to be, yeah, I mean, a regular business owner is going to be like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I have this, I have that. I have Tom over here doing this. I have this person doing that. And I got to put this all together, and I just don't know how. And I don't have enough time because I'm pulled in 10 different directions in a day.
Right. Yeah. And that 10 different directions in a day, I mean, that's a whole other part of the plan, right?
Right.
Is how do you get it's one thing to have the capital to be able to do big plans and projects, but if you don't have the people bandwidth and the personal bandwidth as the leader and the CEO or the founder or the whatever to make it happen and keep going, does it really matter if you have the money behind you?
Right. Right. Very
Right.
true.
Right. So you have talked at times about upstream, working upstream and upstream thinking, and how um, people get locked into bad decisions.
Hmm.
What are some key conversations that leaders should be having early to avoid those, or earlier than they typically do have those?
The bad decisions.
Yeah. Conversations they
Well,
should have to avoid the bad decisions.
well, it's the same thing. It's just like laying everything out up front to make sure you, like you said, you have your pros and your cons, just laying it all out up front, so they're not really making that bad decisions because they already know what it is. It's just, just having the plan out there. And that gives you the sense of clarity. It gives you a sense of direction, and it gives you the sense of, what not to do.
Right. Is there anything,
Mm.
how does somebody who doesn't know how to do that learn to do that? Do they just have to, is it just a trial and error? You just kind of have to go through life to figure it out?
Um, well,
Is
I
there,
think if you're like if you're starting any kind of business, right, you have to you can't just like you said before, you can't just lay out all the positive. You have to just write down everything that comes to mind.
Mhm.
It's not rocket science. You just got to say, okay, all right, this is going to cost X, that's going to cost Y, and and just go down the line. This is what I got to do to make it work. And it's not, it's really, I don't want to be like, you have to have like a mindset of being analytical.
Mhm.
You have to be able to just look at it instead of just getting all fuzzy about it. You have to remove your emotions from it. You can't, a lot of times, and I'm going back when I was younger, I probably made a lot of emotional mistakes. And I know I did. Um,
I think we
because
all did.
you get hyped up and you're like, oh, this is great. Yeah. Ah. As you get older, you get wiser and you're just like, okay, well, I see it, but I don't get excited anymore.
Right.
Um, and it takes time to actually, you got to remove yourself. And I always tell people what you do is like if you're talking to somebody else about like you're giving advice to somebody else, try to do it for yourself. If you're gonna give advice to somebody on going into a business or whatever you're going into a project or something, what would you tell them? And then you write down everything that you would do for yourself.
Right.
Just take you out of the picture. I think that's the best thing. And also I don't think anything has to be made in the decision within 24 hours. I
Right.
never I think you gotta I don't care what it is. In any kind of financial decision, you need some time.
Mhm.
And if that deal, whatever it is, goes, it goes. Oh well, it wasn't made, it's not meant to be.
Right.
You gotta
If it
really
was,
take your time.
yeah, if it's that good and it's the right thing, it's still going to be there in 24 hours or,
Correct.
48 or whatever. Yeah. Um, I think the emotional part of it is, I think you're right. That's really, really big. Even recently, there have been things that I've gotten really excited about, and then I have to remind myself, whoa, stop, pump the brakes a second. And, like you're saying, go back and make that list and just a simple pros and cons list. If, that could be so cool. And these are all the amazing things that happen. These are all the things that'll happen, if it doesn't. And even, you talk about what advice would you give somebody else? I was having a conversation with somebody and they were talking about work and they keep absorbing more and more and more of other people's work because the
Hmm.
work needs to be done and nobody else is doing it. So they just have to keep, and they are just absorbing, absorbing, absorbing. And I said, you know, you're being me 15 years ago. You've got to stop being me. First off, there's one word, it's two letters, it's one syllable, it's really easy. No.
Yeah.
And second, you need to learn ask yourself a question. What is the worst thing that happens if I don't do X? And I think if we can answer that and be clear, I think it really helps take out a lot of that emotion that you're talking about, and it'll set us
Right.
up for a stronger path to success, I think.
No, absolutely. I
But
mean,
sometimes emotion can really drive you forward.
it could,
You
in
know,
some aspects
it
it could,
depends.
but I
Yes.
mean, I don't know, but any emotional decision I made, it wasn't good.
Yeah. I was I was commenting on a gentleman's post on LinkedIn earlier. His question was, what is the harshest truth that changed your life? And I was like, ooh, and I got to thinking about it and I was like, I don't know. And I shared a short story with him on his post. And I said, I don't know if it's a harsh truth, but it was certainly a harsh statement that definitely changed my mindset. And still to this day, I have the same mindset, which can emotionally get me in trouble if I'm not careful. Uh, I had just spent months on end training a horse that everybody wrote off as too dangerous and not worth it. And I was a teenager and I had trained this horse and I went into my very first class at my very first competition and we won the class. And I came out of the class and I am pumped. I have just done this thing. I've practically trained this horse by myself. And I just won this class. And I came out and my trainer said to me, enjoy it, sweetheart. You'll never get that lucky again. I was
Wow.
like, what? And he was definitely a father. My dad was not in the picture at the time. So this guy was very much more dad to me than my dad was. And I mean, it just hit hard. And me being me back in the day, we talked about how when we were younger, we made bad decisions. Me being me, my mouth get me in trouble back then. Uh, and I'm sure I popped off with stuff I wasn't supposed to pop off with. And, I kind of dug in with this just watch me kind of thing. You know what? That wasn't luck, and you just watch. I'm going to do it again. It's funny.
Funny.
It took a couple years, but that horse and I continued to compete for a few years together. And we did one of two things in the show ring. We either got the blue ribbon or we got no ribbon. There was
Got it.
zero middle ground. It was, man, we rocked it and kicked butt, or we screwed up so bad.
That was it.
There was no denying it. And we got nothing. And at the end of my competitive career with that horse, we had gone all the way to the national level. And
Wow.
I came out of I came out of my national ride. There were 20 horses in the last ride, and they picked 10. And then from the top 10, they pin a national champion, a national reserve champion.
Cool.
And I came out of that ride having already gone through 5 elimination rounds. So I've
Wow.
already beaten two or 300 other horses.
Wow.
And I'm in the top 20, and I come out of that class with no ribbon
Ooh.
because that's what we do. We either get the blue or we get nothing. So I I came out of that class with no ribbon, and that same guy who a couple years later my trainer came up to me and he said to me, I've never been so proud to be proven wrong.
Wow. Good.
You earned everything that you've accomplished. He says, and the why of it is a whole other story. And he says, for the record, until that last 30 seconds, the championship was yours. It was in the bag until the
Oof.
last 30 seconds.
You must have been like, oh.
Well, I knew, I
You
didn't
knew
know
it,
that,
but you
I
didn't
didn't
want to
know
hear it
that,
though.
yeah, right. I didn't know that our ride had been that great. I just knew that it had been the best ride I had ever given. And I was sad. I mean, long story short, I was sabotaged. at the end. This guy knew that my horse was the reason we didn't win classes is because my horse would get confused and he thought we were in a rodeo circuit.
Oh,
And we'd go Bucky Leapy across the ring and try to take out judges. And they tend to not give you prizes for that.
ooh,
When they're diving for their life, they tend to not reward you.
no, no.
So this guy knew that he was that way, and he was another trainer. He had a competitor in the ring, and I rode right past him right at the end of the class, getting ready to go in and park ourselves in the safety zone, right? Because I've made it through this whole class with nothing. And they're like, okay, everybody line up. And I'm like, how fast can I get to that line? Right. And I
Ay,
was
ay,
turning in the
ay.
line, and this guy had a big old ring on his finger, and he smacked it on a metal rail right in front of my horse's face. And whoop, there we went, bucking across the ring. And my trainer said he watched all five judges shake their head and mark
Nope.
my number off the card. And I was 11th.
Oof.
Still having been marked off of the card, I made 11th. And I'm like, son of a gun. And so it was just enough to take me out of the running for a top 10 or better. Um, but that mindset that he unknowingly planted with that, you'll never get that lucky again. It gave me this determination that when people tell me I can't do something,
You gotta
I
do it.
have this psychological, emotional need to prove them wrong.
I get it. I get it. I understand. Believe me, when I first started the business in finance was when I was going from insurance to finance. And someone told me, a close person said to me, you know what? I feel like you don't have the stomach for this. And I was like, it was somebody I knew my whole life. I was just like, you know what? Inside, I said, screw you.
Mhm. I'm pretty sure that
I,
might have been along the lines of what I told Bill that day.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I that to this day, that's still on my mind. I was just like, you know what? I don't talk to that person ever again, but I'm just, it
Yeah.
was just something that it was just those words that were said, and that could give you a lot of drive because you just want to prove. It's really like I don't know if you're trying to prove to them, but you're just kind of proving to yourself,
Yeah.
really, that you know what? Somebody looked at you and said, "You're not going to make it," and then you're like, "Well, yeah, I can make it. Who are
Yeah.
you?"
Well, and exactly. And we can take those moments and turn them into a psychological barrier.
Hmm.
It allows us to never reach for anything
Succeed.
again or never find that clarity and that drive. Or we can take those moments and say, screw you,
Hmm.
and dig in and get clear on what we want and find a way to make it happen. And I found a way with that horse, and he was he won so much, and they don't do it this way anymore, but he won so much stuff during mine and his career that even when I sold him to other people who went on to compete with him, they never had to qualify for the national competition again because he was qualified. His
Wow.
qualifications went with him for life.
That's wow. That's
He
amazing.
he had won that much even without the national championship.
Right. Right.
Um, but he also never won again the way that he
Wow.
won with me
Got it.
because he and I had been through so much
The
that,
bond.
yes, that bond is so huge. And there's a magic there. And I think that magic even comes to us in business when we find things, and do we dig in, and do we let the naysayers become our barrier, or do we let the naysayers become our motivation? And
So the mindset. Yeah.
I'm more of the motivation type. And I did it with that horse. I did it when I published my first book and people told me I would never be published. I did it, last year when I went after my college degree and people told me I couldn't get a degree, let alone do it in a year, and I did a college degree in 11 months.
Mm.
And And now I'm doing it in my business, right?
There you
Like,
go.
just sit back and watch. I don't know what it's going to look like.
Well, you get the passion, you get the drive. When
But,
you, I mean, when you take it in, I mean, it all goes to you can't take opinions from other people.
right,
That's basically it. I mean, I don't really care what people think and what they say, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You know, you can cheer, you can do
right.
whatever you want to do. Give me cross eyes. I don't really care.
And just because one lender says no money here, that doesn't mean the next one isn't.
True, true. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So,
It's you just got to keep going and going. But the same token, you want to be reckless. There is
right.
a time when you got to stop and say, "Well, this ain't working. I got to change or stop."
Yeah. That's when you need to balance your honesty and you've got to balance all of it, right?
Right.
The things that you want with reality and it's a balancing act to be certain, and it's not always
It's
easy.
not. No, it's not always easy because you get the passion and drive, but at the same token, you can be destroying yourself. I seen that too.
Right. What, as we wrap up, what are some passing thoughts or words of wisdom that you might want to share with anybody who is looking to scale and grow their business or life, whatever, to the next level? Any passing thoughts?
I would say number one, to lay it out. Have the plan in place. Don't just try to scale from the seat of your pants. Number one. And it's starting a business. Again, you might have like a passion or something or a desire to do it. Just look at everything. You're gonna be thanking yourself in the future. Lay everything out. Like we said, just put down all the negatives, all the positives, write down everything that can go wrong as well as things that can go right. But more what can go wrong first.
Right.
I mean, and with scaling, I would say if you're looking to scale in the first level, then going to the next level, do it right. You don't need to be hiring five people, hire one, see how it works, try it, do it slow. There's no real timeline.
Right.
I mean, you don't need to be, making X amount of money or hit X goal in a short period. What's the big deal? I mean, so you scale to 6 months later. I mean, you don't want to be ruining your life
Right.
just trying to hit the next level.
Right.
And like you said, get a balance too. You don't want to be, stressing yourself out or having somebody else in your circle that's suffering because you're trying to scale.
Hmm. Right. I love that. And for people who want to connect with you, where can they connect with you? And I also know you have a podcast, so tell us about your podcast too.
Okay. Well, our podcast is Cashing Up, and it's B2B or B to professional. We pretty much open forum. We talk about challenges in the market, what's going on with people, and just different ways to get through certain circumstances, hurdles, or whatever it may be. That's Cashing Up, cashing-up.com. To get in hold of me, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name, very easy to find. I'm kind of unique. Or I have a couple of websites. Is cpglending.com is one of them. That's probably the main one. And you can find me anywhere really. I'm
Awesome.
very easy to find.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being with me today, John. This was fun.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it. Thank you
I,
for having me.
I always have a blast talking with you.
Likewise.
Well, thanks.
Very easy.
Right. It's just, yes. Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on Scaling with Heart, where purpose fuels progress and people power possibility. If this episode brought you insight, inspiration, or a spark of strategy, share it with a fellow builder, leave a review, or spread the word. Until next time, keep showing up with clarity, courage, and compassion as you scale what matters most.